In this lesson, lesson 1.8, our essential question is, repeat after me, how do you count by ones, fives, and tens with numbers less than 100? All right, so we are going to be looking at some number patterns in this lesson. So if you would open your book to page 55, go ahead and pause the video while you do that. All right, so on page 55, we have a 100 chart, and we are going to write the missing numbers in this chart. There are a number of ways that we can look at the chart to write the numbers in. Before we do that, I want to remind you how numbers on the chart are related. And I would like to ask you, how are the numbers that are next to each other related? So if you're going across the chart, how are those numbers related? Pause the video and think about this question. All right, so if you look at numbers next to each other, we know that they are counting by ones as you go along. So if we were to go back to the left of a number, we would know that we would be counting back one. So we know that before 21 or 22 comes 21. And if we were to go forward to the right of a number, we know that we would be adding one more, and that would be 23. And then the chart moves on, 24 and 25. Of course, in order to get 23, we could have also looked at 24 and gone back to the left and known it was 23. The next question I want to ask you is, how are the numbers that are above and below each other related? All right, go ahead and pause the video and think about that question. I added a number in there. So if you look at the numbers above and below each other, you don't always have to just go across and count, because sometimes you might be given a piece of a 100 chart like this where you don't have all the numbers across the 100 chart. So in order to find those pieces, we know that if we go below or down, we know that we are adding 10 more. So all we have to do is look at the tens place, and we need to make that number one more 10. For example, one more 10 for this one would be a 3. So we would have 3 tens and still 2 ones. So 10 more than 22 would be 32. Then if we would go down one more, again, we're adding 10. So we add one more to the tens place, which would be 4 tens, and we still have 2 ones. So 10 more would be 42. So if you look at this chart, we know this is one less. If we go to the left, so we have 21. After 22, we know we have 23, 24, and 25. So now when we look here, we know that this is not going to be 26 because 26 doesn't come before 32. So we could either go back to the left and subtract 1, or we could go down and add 10 more. So I'm going to add 10 more. If we go down and add 10 more, we know we're going to have 3 tens and still have the 1 1. And if you look, you can kind of check your work. We know that that is 31. After 33, we have 34. If you look, that's 10 more than 24. And then we have 35, and that's 10 more than 25. Again, let's continue going down, adding 10 more. One more 10 would be 41. Over here, we have 23, 33. One more 10 would be 43. And if we look at the tens again, going down, one more 10 would be 44. And over here, one more 10 would be 45. And you always can double check your work going back and forth. So as a review, we know that if you have a number on a number chart, like 22, we know if we go up, we're going to subtract a 10. We take 1 10 away. And if we go down, we're adding 10 more, 32. If we go to the right, we're adding 1 more, so the tens place stays the same. And if we go to the left, we're subtracting 1. I'll have this chart hung in our classroom. All right, so let's go ahead and look at page 55. I would like for you to go ahead and pause the video and fill the chart in the best that you can using these strategies. All right, so you should have filled your entire chart in. I'm going to go ahead and put my little kind of like a compass rose. I know if I go up, I'm going to subtract 10. If I go down, I'm going to add 10. To the right, I'm adding 1. And to the left, I'm subtracting 1. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to start counting across. And fortunately, this chart is a whole entire hundreds chart. It's not just a piece of one. So I know that after 3 comes 4, after 6 comes 7, after 8 comes 9. I'm going to go ahead and challenge myself right here. I have the number 2. So if I want it to be 10 more, I know that there are 0 10s in 2. So I'm going to add 10 more. And I know that I still have 2 1s. So 10 more than 2 is 12. Then we have 10 more 22, 10 more 32, 10 more would be 42, 10 more would be 52. Then we have 62, 72, 10 more would be 82, and then we have 92. So I'm just going to go ahead and fill mine in. You can self-check yours as I am filling my chart in. Go ahead and see. Make sure that you've challenged yourself not to just count by ones, but to look at the patterns and count, subtract, or add 10 more as I'm filling my chart in. And I know I'm filling mine in by ones, but I'm also looking, I'm double checking to make sure that it's 10 more or 10 less above. 71, 81, 91. You want to try to be fluent in any direction that you go on your chart. Oh, I'm going to go down. 10 more is 87. 10 more would be 97. All right, so what I would like you to do now is I want you to think about this question. If this is a whole class lesson, I'd like you to turn to your thinking partner and describe some different ways that you found the numbers on the charts. Which one of these strategies did you use to find the numbers on the chart? Go ahead and pause the video. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to turn the page, and we have some number patterns that we are going to complete. On this page, on page 56, it says you can count on by different amounts. You can start counting with different numbers. So when we count on with patterns, it doesn't always have to start at 1. This one, we are counting by ones. In this first pattern, we're starting with 1. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We know that 5 comes next, and then 6. What would come next? That's right, 7. And then we have 8. If you look here, this pattern is starting with the number 29. We are still counting by ones though, starting at 29 and counting on 29, 30, 31, 32. Next comes 33. One more would be, that's right, 34. And then we have 35. And finally 36. So counting by ones, you can start with any number and then you just count on one more. Our next pattern, we are counting by 5s. So if you are to look at a 100 chart, and you have 100 charts all over our room, when we count by 5s, we know that this column that has 5 in the ones place will be one of the numbers as we count by 5s. And then over here, the column that has 0 in the tens place, in the ones place, the 5 in the ones place, and the 0 in the ones place, we know that we're going to go back and forth as we count by 5, because on this chart, we know that that is 5 more each time we get to the column with 5 ones and 0 ones. We just go back and forth, because if we were to count 5 more, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We always end up in those columns. So if you would like to use a 100 chart as you do these patterns, that is perfectly fine. So we have counting by 5, starting at 5. So we have 5, 10, 15, 20. If you look at the chart 20 and we go down, we know that we would have 25. And 5 more would be 30. And continuing, we have 35 and then 40. If we start with 50, counting by 5s, we know that we can find 50 here. And we're going to go to the column that has 5 in the ones place. So we have 55. Oops, I'm sorry. 55 is right here. 60, 65. And after 65, we have 70, 75, 80, 85. All right. So what you're going to be doing on these pages is you're going to read whether it tells you to count by ones, starting with the first number in the pattern, or to count by 5s, or down here it's asking you to count by 10s. So first I'm going to do this one with you, number 1, and it is asking us to count by ones, starting at 15. So we have 15, 16, 17, 18, then what? 19, and then 20, 21, and 22. And then if you remember counting by 5s, again, looking at our 100 chart, we're starting at 15. So our next number will be 20, 25, and then we will write 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50. Pause the video, make sure that you have that. I'm going to let you continue on with number 3. If you look at number 4, we are counting by 10s. So on your 100 chart, if you remember, when you count by 10s, you might start in the 10s column, but you can count by 10 starting with any number. You just go straight down the chart, you're adding 10. If you remember our rule, that if you go down the chart, you're adding 10 each time. In this lesson, we are counting by 10, starting with even 10s numbers. So we're starting with 10, 20, 30, then what? That's right, 40, and 50, 60, and 70. So you can go ahead and continue. Make sure that you have these 3 that I did with you. Go ahead and continue these problems. Go on to the next page. And you can go ahead and do the Think Smarter problem along with the problem solving on the last page. All right.